Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a tutorial on halo eyes, and this is just a neutral toned one. When I think about it, this is more of a spotlight eye because it's like, do you know what I mean? And then a halo eye is more like a circular one. So maybe I'll do like one of those softer ones in another video, but yeah, this is like the cut crease style halo, spotlight eye, whatever you want to call it. So I've already done my brow. I normally use the Got To Be Glued hair gel, and I just brush them into shape and I filled them in with a Revolution eyebrow pencil. And now I'm just going to sculpt it out with some concealer. So because I am pale AF, I use the P. Louise Eye Base in the shade 2, but I also mix it with a lighter concealer. This is the Conceal and Define concealer in the shade C1. So I'm just going to mix them two together. I hope these sounds are like ASMR in the microphone because I've got the microphone right here. Maybe I'll do an ASMR video. What do you think? Do you think I should do that at some point? Like get ready with me, but it's ASMR. I think that'd be pretty cool. So I'm starting with a flat concealer brush. This is the Blank Canvas F17 brush. And I'm gonna start by sculpting under my eyebrow. When I'm doing client makeup, I actually sculpt the brow out first and then I draw the brow in afterwards. But it doesn't really matter which way you do it. I just like to do it this way. So once I've sculpted it out, I take the concealer all the way down onto my lid. Quite generously as well, I use quite a lot of this to get a really nice opaque base. So from here you can just like pat the base with the brush you're already using, or you could use a sponge, you could use another brush. I'm just going to use this one for now. So once that's all blended out, I use my finger to blend out the outer edge, just into my skin and the inner corner as well. If you don't blend this, then you'll find when you put your foundation on afterwards, it'll kind of cake up in these areas, so just make sure that's really nicely blended. For this look, I'm using the Morphe 39A palette. This is a big boy. So what I'm going to do is edit in the colours that I'm using instead of having to hold the palette up all the time. So I'm starting with the shade Slice and the 231 Luxe Petite Crease Brush by Zoeva. And I'm just loading my brush up, tapping off the excess, making sure that the concealer is all blended, there's no creases before we apply it. And I'm just placing this on the outer corner of my lid. And just really build up that pigmentation to start with. And then I am bringing it into the crease. And we're taking this right into the inner corner. So we're basically creating a little bridge over our eyelid. So we're keeping the centre bare. Don't worry too much if you get fallout onto the centre of your lid because we'll be cleaning that up later anyway. So what I do is on a little piece of tissue, I just wipe off some of the excess product. And then I go back in with the same brush and just fluff it along the edges to just slightly blend it. Keeping it in this kind of circular shape. Next, I'm going in with another small brush. This is the Morphe M506 brush. So it's a little bit smaller. You could have probably gone the opposite way, used this in your crease and used this as the second brush, but they're fairly similar in size. Next, I'm going in with the shade Deep Hue, which is slightly lighter than what we've just used. Tap off the excess, and I'm just swirling that halfway onto the shadow we've just applied and halfway onto the skin around it. And this time, instead of packing the colour in, we're just swirling it along the edges. But still following that same semicircle shape. Again, sweeping off some of the excess onto a tissue and then just using what's left on the brush to swirl along the edges again. And this time we're just blending it a little bit higher up. And you might find at this point that there's a kind of separation between the first colour and the second colour. Like here, I can tell it's not quite blended. So I'm going to go back in with the previous colour and just fluff again along the edges, just what's left on the brush. Don't add any more pigmentation unless you really need to, so I feel like I need a tiny bit more. Just blending that up a little bit more, making sure we've got a nice seamless blend. Next, I'm going in with an even smaller blending brush. I'm having a real Plumbella moment right now where I'm just editing myself into my video while I'm editing. So here I kind of don't understand why I decided to use bigger brushes in the crease and smaller brushes to blend it out. I would say scrap all that, use the smaller brushes in the crease, and then as you work up, use a bigger brush each time. Don't quite know what happened there, but just bear with me, okay? I'm getting back into the swing of things. This is the Peaches and Cream PC 47 brush, and I'm using the shade Frame, which again is a lighter colour. Going right over the edge of the previous colour, and swirling a little bit higher up. So each colour we're gradually blending a little bit further upwards each time. Now I'm going back with the previous colours again and just alternating between them. This is how you're going to get a nice seamless blend. Again, back with the darkest shade. Next up is the shade Sculpt. Again, a lighter brown. And this is a little bit more of an orangey tone. I just wanted to bring a little bit more warmth. Again, this is a bigger brush. This is the Morphe M573. And just swirling that all the way up to the brow. Well, the brow bone. And then I'm going with an even lighter shade. This is the shade Bear, which is a nice transition shade up to the brow. Again, going right over the edge of the previous colour and blending up to the brow bone. Making sure you don't forget to blend this outer corner, but don't drag it outwards unless you want to have more of a blown out look. Halo eyes and spotlight eyes, I personally think look better if you keep them kind of concentrated in that rounded shape. Again, go back with each brush. For my brow bone, I'm just using a bit of translucent powder to set it because I actually only have a select amount of makeup with me right now because it's all at the salon I work at. So I actually don't have a highlight shade with me. So I've just set that with the Laura Mercier setting powder. And I'm using a little bit of the Doll Beauty highlighter just underneath the arch. If you are uncomfortable with cutting the crease but you still want a similar effect, what you can do is take a little bit of concealer on your finger and just pat it on the centre of the lid. Keep going around in circles until it all kind of blends in, and then you can just pop whatever shimmer shade on the centre, and that will give the same sort of effect but just not this cut crease style. So I'm taking the concealer that we used earlier, the P. Louise Eye Base, on my PC 40 brush. This is Peaches and Cream, and this is really nice for cutting creases because it's so flat and you can get a lot of control from this. So what I do is I pat this right on the centre of my lid, just like that. And I kind of bring it out a little bit, about the size of a 5p. Take it just below the crease because you can kind of feel where the crease is, so that's just underneath my crease. And then what I do is I look up. So I make sure that my brow is relaxed. I don't go like this or anything. I keep my brow relaxed and I just look straight up. And what that does is it prints the concealer right where I need it for the cut crease. And from experience, this works for most eye shapes. So if you struggle on clients and you kind of want to get that perfect cut crease in the right place, just do this technique. Just cover their lid in concealer, get them to look up, and then you get kind of a guideline of where you want the cut crease to go. I believe it was Michael Finch that came up with that technique, which can be used for all kinds of cut creases. So if you were doing a half cut crease, for example, you would just pat the concealer in the inner corner as well, and then cut the crease all the way into the inner corner. Now that we know where our cut crease needs to go, you want to make sure your brush is nicely coated. If your brush is kind of dry, it will drag on the skin and you're more likely to make a mistake and it not be a nice smooth line. So make sure that your brush is coated well so that it will glide. So I'm just starting by looking straight forwards to see where that sits. We kind of want to follow the same curvature of the crease. So if I look straight into the camera, can you see where that line is sitting just above my crease? I want to keep that shape. I don't want to curve it too much. I don't want it to be too flat. I want it to follow the natural curvature of my crease. So starting in the center, and just patting the edge of my brush along that edge. And pat down onto the rest of my lid. And just ensuring that the edge is nice and smooth. If you're too scared to kind of drag the brush like this, you can just press and pull downwards. You can still keep looking forwards, relax your lid, and just curve it off as much as you need. So now we want to blend these two edges. So I'm using the Morphe M562 brush, which is a small synthetic blender brush. So what I do is just tickle that on the edge of the concealer, do up and down motions, do back and forth motions, do little patting motions, whatever works. And you'll start to see the eyeshadow blends into the concealer. And then do the same on the inner corner. You might find that your brush builds up with a bit of concealer from doing this. So if you want less concealer on your brush, I just like wipe it on the back of my hand to get rid of some of the excess, so that I can go back in and I'm not affecting that eyeshadow too much. And then I go in with my finger over the top. So from here, we kind of want to go in with some of the previous shades that we've used to help blend these corners inwards. So I'm starting with the shade Sculpt that we used earlier, and just pressing that kind of towards the center of the lid, but again, leaving the center nice and bare. I'm kind of pinching it in to the lash line and leaving it a little bit wider at the top. Now I'm going back with the shade Frame and taking that just next to it, working a little bit further out. And then slice. Now I decided halfway through this look that I wanted to add a little bit more depth in those corners, so I'm going back with another Morphe M562 brush and taking the shade Muse, which is a matte black. You don't want to go in too heavily with black, you just want to gradually build it up. So I'm just taking that right on the outer corner, keeping it nice and controlled and blending it up slightly. Same on the inner corner. And then going back with Slice over the top of that just to help blend it out. So just making sure I'm softening all of these edges. Now for the center of the lid, you can basically do whatever you want. I always say go for a shade lighter, so you could go for a cream shade, you could use a matte white, you could use a shimmer, you could use a highlighter. You have a lot of possibilities here. You could put glitter on, whatever you want to do, as long as it's lighter in the center, because that's how we get that three-dimensional halo look. So I'm using the Peaches and Cream Hollywood pigment, which is really pretty. It's got flecks of gold in it. Taking that on my very old Sedona Lace 945 brush and just packing it down the center of the lid. Taking it right up to that cut crease and spreading it out either side. So think of it as like a T, the letter T. So you go down and across. And then I'm just using a little bit of product left on the brush to take it outwards a little bit more. And I also decided to go in with a little bit of the shade Gatsby just along the top edge, just to make it look a little bit more defined, because I feel like this pigment kind of took away that sharp line. just pressing that along the edge. So that's basically it for the top lid. When I do makeup, I always do the top half of my eye first, then my foundation, then under eyes. I am just going to finish with a little bit of Doll Beauty highlighter, just on the inner corner. And from here you can decide whether you want to do a winged liner. I'm just going to smudge some liner, so I'm using the Kiko Colour Kajal crayon in the shade 1, so this is just a black pencil eyeliner. I'm just running that across the lash line. And don't shout at me for pulling my lid, okay? I don't do this to clients, I only do it to myself. In one of my old videos, people used to always shout at me for pulling my eye. I was like, guys, it's my own face, it's okay. But yeah, if you're working on clients, don't pull their eyes. And I'm using the Pixy 14 brush with some of that black eyeshadow again in the shade Muse, just to pat over the top and to smudge it slightly. It's always good to do some sort of liner on the top lid, whether it be smudged or a winged liner, just because if we're putting lashes on, it just helps to blend the lash band. So that is the upper lid done. I'm going to go off camera, put some lashes on, do my foundation, and then I'll show you what to do on the bottom lash line. BRB. So I am back, I've done my foundation, so now I'm going to move on to underneath my eyes. I'm starting with the darkest shade, which was the shade Slice, and I'm using the Morphe E36 brush, which is a small pencil brush. And I'm just going to get a little handheld mirror a second, because otherwise you're not really going to be able to see. So what I'm going to do is start by running this darker shade just along my lashes. And you kind of have some options at this point of how you want the lower lash line to look. You could just do a smoked out kind of line along the bottom, or you could do the halo effect on the bottom as well, which is what I'm going to do. I'm just taking that darkest shade from the inner corner towards the centre, outer corner towards the centre, leaving a slight gap in the middle, which is where we'll put that highlight again. Then I'm going in with the shade Deep Hue on the Peaches and Cream PC47 brush, which was the small blender brush. And I'm taking that right over the top. And I'm not blending this down or anything, because the amount of colours we'll be using will naturally blend it down. So we don't want to just go and like blend this darker shade all the way down, otherwise we'll end up with like panda eyes. So do the same on that inner corner. Then going with a slightly bigger brush, the Morphe M506, and taking the shade Frame, running that over the top. Again, not blending it too far down. And don't worry too much if you cover that centre part, because again we can go in with concealer. And then I'm using the same brush again for the shade Sculpt. And taking this one a little bit lower. Just doing sweeping motions and attaching it to this top lid. Then going with a slightly bigger fluffy brush that's got a bit of a pointed shape to it. This is a Zoeva brush, but the number has rubbed off, so I'm not sure what this is, but it's kind of like a tulip shaped brush. And I'm using the colour Bear. And just blending the last of that. So the lower lash line is actually pretty simple, and then you can kind of play with some of the darker shades and bring them back in a little bit more, smoke it out a little bit more on the outer corner. So you could essentially leave it like that and just keep it smoky, or you can add the halo in the centre, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm using the P. Louise Eye Base again and the PC40 brush, and just taking a little bit of that concealer and patting it on the centre of my lower lid. And I'm just blending it down slightly into kind of a triangular shape, but I'm just going to blend it with my finger, just to act as a base for the shimmer, which is going to be the same Hollywood pigment again, and using the PC07 brush to apply it. So I'm just patting that on. And you might find that you need to reapply your inner tear duct highlight a little bit. So I just blend that into the lower lash line a little bit. And then you can line your waterline, you could add a pop of colour, you kind of can do whatever you want at this point. I'm going to use the Kiko Colour Kajal in the shade 3, which is a cream colour. And that's basically it. So I'm gonna go off camera, do the other eye, and then I'll just finish off with some lips and show you the completed look. Okay, so off camera I finished my eyes and I put some mascara on my bottom lashes and I applied lipstick. The lipstick I have on is the Morphe Mega Matte Lipstick in the shade Morphe, which is a really nice deep red. Then I applied some of the Fenty Gloss Bomb lipstick in the shade Fenty Glow. Let me know in the comments if you would like to see some more tutorials like this and what kind of tutorials you would like to see. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you know when I'm uploading a new video. I hope this was helpful and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys!